Good morning, everyone.
Good morning!
How's your day? So, in my topic, we're going to talk about the learning domains and its taxonomies. So, in this morning, I want you to participate and listen to our discussion because later on, I will conduct a quiz and I will test your learnings about our topic for today later on. So, I want you to siguro mag-take note and then listen. So, before we proceed to our discussion in this morning, I want you to first read our learning outcomes. So, can you please read, everyone?
At the end of the lesson, the learner should be able to analyze the importance of Bloom's taxonomy and learning domains in assessing the learning of the students, apply different learning strategies through the use of Bloom's taxonomy and learning domains, and reflect on how these learning domains help learners enhance their intellectual integrity in the learning process.
Okay, so as you see, these learning outcomes concerning the cognitive, the affective, and the psychomotor skills of each individuals. And even for you to achieve this, you must participate and listen to our discussion. You must do the LLP. Do you know what LLP? LLP stands for learn, listen, learn, and participate. So enable you to achieve these three learning outcomes. Now, I will discuss you the Bloom's taxonomy. So, Bloom's taxonomy, it is a set of three hierarchical models used for classification of educational learning objectives and used to create assessment and lesson plans. Also helps to evaluate the complexity of assignments, develop online courses, and plan project-based learning. So, in simply term, Bloom's taxonomy is a set of three hierarchical models of educational framework which helps for categorizing learning objectives. And also it differs on its complexity and specificity. But you must also remember that Bloom's taxonomy is one of the most powerful tool that most teachers and instructors use for assessing in their educational teaching process for their students, especially when assessing the learning of the students. And enable for that also, the teachers will meet the expectation of what should the students must learn or must achieve at the end of the discussion. So now, saan ba karaniwan ginagamit itong si Bloom's taxonomy in the field of teaching and how? So Bloom's taxonomy is commonly used by teachers as their guide or their tool, enable for them that their teaching process must meet to the intended learning outcomes of their teaching plan. Just like for example, if si Mr. Jericho Rivas is nagturo siya ng kanyang estudyante about the story about Hansel and Gretel. So at the pagbalik ng klase niya, Mr. Jericho wants to assess the learnings of his students. He wants to assess the learning of his students. So this Bloom's taxonomy is the guide of assessing the learning of the students in getting what are the knowledge that gained by the students in that particular subject. So Bloom's taxonomy, it is first bago nating discover to revise Bloom's taxonomy, let us first talk about who pioneered the Bloom's taxonomy. Okay, so Bloom's taxonomy was pioneered by Benjamin Bloom. Benjamin Bloom is an educational psychologist researcher from the University of Chicago, and he proposed or pioneered a educational instructional educational framework which categorizing the specificity and complexity of learning outcomes of educational teaching. But the Bloom's taxonomy was centered about static knowledge and more on abstract abilities. That is why in the 2001 there was a revision, and it was revised by Lauren Anderson, a former student of Bloom's, together with Grant Wool. They revised Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domain in order to fit the more outcome-focused and modern educational objectives. Okay. So Bloom's taxonomy. So the original model of Bloom's taxonomy was focused on the static knowledge, or hindi siya gaanong engaging. Unlike sa our current educational standard, which is mas higher intellect na ang mga estudyante. That is why Cratwell and Anderson, they revised the taxonomy of Bloom's into the current age of educational standard. So, Anderson and Cratwell updated and revised the Bloom's taxonomy by reflecting the focus outcome of modern educational objectives, and also concerning the relevance of the 21st century work for both student and the teachers. So, ito yung model ng revised Bloom's taxonomy. So, the model of Bloom's revised taxonomy is ordered from the lower order thinking, order skills into the higher. So, first, ito yung Bloom's taxonomy ng 1956, which is the revised here from noun to verb form. Knowledge, to remember; comprehension, to understand; then application, to apply; analysis, to analyze; then ang synthesis and evaluation is binaliktad siya dito, which is dapat nasa pang-last itong si create, which is ang synthesis pulihan siya ang create. That is why ang kanina form siya is the transfer siya into the verb form, which is more engaging na siya in terms of mga assessment activities. Okay, so enable for you to understand this. This is kanang kung sila nakasunod yun siya. You will not able to understand if you can't remember. Also, you can't apply if you can't understand. Also, you can't analyze if you will not apply. And as well as also evaluate, then lastly is to create. Create is the fruit of what have you learned about this, kung na-remember din, i-understand mo, just like i-analyze, i-evaluate, hatod nga, naka-create na ka of your own. Okay, so in your own understanding, what do you think Anderson and Cratwell's main reason why they revised the Bloom's taxonomy why they revised the Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, Miss Magilimutan.
So what I remember from what you told earlier, so they revised the original Bloom's taxonomy to the revised Bloom's taxonomy because the 1950s, the learning there, it was mostly teacher-centered. Now, so sa early 20th century, or now the modern or contemporary brain, is that naging learner-centered na siya. So in order to fit this taxonomy or that pyramid, they need to revise or like to exchange or like gibaylo niya ang synthesis and evaluation to fit on the curriculum in the present, and also to give like fun and enjoyable learning experiences para sa mga.
Okay, so very good. So one of the main reason kasi why Anderson and Cratwell have been revised the Bloom's taxonomy is they want to fit this model into the current age, which is they want the designer of curriculum and the students and also the teacher to meet their expectation best than the old Bloom's taxonomy. Kasi nga may kasabihan nga tayo nga changes is the only permanent. So the more the educational standard nato mag-change siya, dapat ang iyahang kanang model sa instructional teaching process dapat pod mo align siya sa atuang standard. That is why Anderson and Cratwell revised the Bloom's taxonomy. So now that you already know the difference between the Bloom's and the revised taxonomy, let us now proceed the learning domains. So can you please read everyone the three learning domains?
Cognitive, affective, and psychomotor.
the three learning domains that teachers must apply in their teaching. Enable for the teachers also to assess if their students have progress in their teaching process. So first, let us discuss the cognitive domain. Can you please read, everyone?
This domain involves knowledge and the development of intellectual skills. It includes recall or recognition of specific facts, procedural patterns, and concepts that serve in the development of intellectual abilities and skills.
Okay, so this domain, it talks about the mental abilities and capabilities of the students. Also, it refers how the teacher would apply in their teaching skills and the teaching process for the learners to have progress in their cognitive skills, especially in their mental abilities. So now let us proceed to the classification of the cognitive domain in Bloom's taxonomy. So first, let us talk about muna the Bloom's taxonomy. Mamaya yun yung the revised. Kasi ang revised Bloom's taxonomy, focus lang siya sa cognitive. Wala siya sa psychomotor at saka sa affective. So ang cognitive domain dito, dalawa yung kanyang model, which is the Bloom's taxonomy, the old one, and also the revised taxonomy. So first, this is the old one, the Bloom's taxonomy. So first, we have the knowledge. So knowledge, it focuses in identification and recall information. It talks about how the students would use its mental skills and abilities for the class also to participate. The sample verbs included in this classification is identify, define, recall, and memorize. So as you for a teacher, in order for you to use this knowledge, you must use these sample verbs. So for example, memorize. Diba, sometimes na-allow ng mga teacher na, okay, you must memorize this classification para sa next meeting ninyo, magka-quiz kayo, so may isasagot ka. In that case, you're using your mental abilities. So that was your knowledge. And also, next is comprehension. Is the second model, ito yung kasunod ng knowledge, which is kung may knowledge ka na, you will now comprehend. So comprehension focus on the use of facts, rules, and principles. Sample verbs included in this is the explain, express, and describe, and also interpret. So if you have this skill, you can explain what are the topics or what have you understand in the discussion of your teacher. And also you can describe if those kanang topics or if those kanang learnings have kanang may kaugnayan ba siya sa growth ng estudyante sa kanyang mental capabilities, mental abilities. And also next is the application. So now, since you can comprehend na and you have the knowledge na, kasunod na naman yung application which is focused on applying facts and principles. So dito mo na ma-master yung mga knowledge na na-learn mo which is you can apply na, especially in everyday lives and not just everyday lives but in the learning process, ma-apply mo na kung ano yung mga na-learn mo sa discussion ng teacher mo. So sample verbs included in this is the demonstrate, show, dramatize, and illustrate. So the most common of this is the dramatize, diba? Kasi karaniwan pinapagawa sa atin ng mga guro natin is role play. So you need to role play what happened to Hansel and Gretel. So just like that. So it includes in the application. Next is analysis. So after you apply, you must analyze. Analysis is the separation of a whole into component parts. Sample verbs included in this is the analyze, compare, contrast, and examine. So in this part, you will analyze those learning that you apply. Kung may naitulong ba siya sa iyong learning process. At for example, si Hansel and Gretel, you will analyze or compare or contrast Hansel and Gretel's characteristic. So it will also include to analysis skills of the student. Next is the synthesis. Synthesis is combining. Kung ang analyze is separation, magkaiba dito sa synthesis because synthesis is you need to combine different ideas to form a new whole ideas. Sample verbs included in this is combine, arrange, or construct, or formulate. And the last classification of cognitive domain in Bloom's taxonomy is the evaluation. It is now the judging and critiquing of the value of idea. Sample verbs of this is judge, conclude, evaluate, and measure. In this classification, the teacher would know if the students really understand the topic of the discussion. If may na-learn ba ang mga estudyante niya, if ang lesson ba or ang teaching process ba ng guro is enough para ang mga estudyante niya is ma-learn o makuha yung expectation ng teacher about what should the student must learn or must achieve at the end of the topic. Most commonly concern of this is the learning objectives. Diba? Yung before tayo mag-present natin topic is may pinapakita tayong learning objectives. So it is one of the most important part of the teacher that it must be concerned na at the end of the lesson na-achieve ba ng mga students niya yung mga learning objectives. So enable for you to be sure na ma-achieve talaga ng mga student yung mga learning objectives mo, you must use this model. And since yun yung si Bloom's Taxonomy, which is the old one, so let us proceed to the revised Bloom's Taxonomy. Ito na yung revision ni Anderson at Catmull. Classification of cognitive domain in the revised Bloom's Taxonomy. The first one is remembering. Diba yung pinakauna doon sa Bloom's Taxonomy is knowledge. But dito is parang may nabago na, which is yung knowledge mo is stuck lang. Then ito is remembering. You must may skills ka na ginagamit, which is you're using your mind as to remember things or ideas about what the teacher is taught about. Remembering, it is the use of memory to produce definition. Sample verbs is state, memorize, recall, repeat, or name. One of the example of this is like an oral recitation. Diba? Pag oral recitation, yung pinapatayo ka ni teacher mo at saka tinatanong ka about your lesson or your topic about the past discussion. So, you're using your mind and memory in this part, which is remembering. Pag nare-remember mo yung kung ano yung diniscuss ni teacher, talagang makakasagot ka. So, it is one also of the best part which student must enhance and achieve. Also, next is understanding. Construct, meaning higher ability of mind. So, hindi ka lang pwedeng, hindi mo lang siya pwedeng i-remember. Kasi just remembering it cannot help you grow. So, dapat, you need to also understand about what you have remembered. So, pagkatapos mo nang na-remember, dapat i-understand mo ano ba yung mga ideas na nire-remember ko, ano ba yung mga ideas na mga na-learn ko. So, you must understand. It is the construction of meaning in higher ability of mind. It is the higher ability of mind which use your mental abilities to understand what you've learned. Sample verbs including this is explain, express, discuss, and describe. So next is applying. Apply learned ideas into real life situation. Sample verbs including this is illustrate, demonstrate, operate, and exhibit. So since that you have understand now, you can apply na. Diba? Pag ang thing is na-learn mo na, you can use it na in your real life mga panghitabo. Just like for example, sa atuang kanang biochemistry, naka-learn ta og kanang how to make a wine. So diba? Naka-learn ta how to make a wine. Pag ka-learn nimo na-memorize nimo, understand nimo nga ingani din siya. So in your house, you can kanang makahimo na po ka in your own nga, ma-apply nimo ang imuhang na-learn sa school, which is in your own, magbuhat-buhat na po ka imuhang kaugalingon nga ingana nga mga butang. So, that's kanang apply skills. Next is analyzing. Analyzing is breaking of the concept into understandable parts. Sample verbs include in this is differentiate, investigate, and contrast. So it is the skill of the student which he or she analyze those concepts and ideas that he or she must learn in the specific topic or ideas. So example of this is differentiate or investigate. So differentiate the different parts of those learnings that you have learned. Also evaluating, making judgment based on criteria or standard. Sample verbs including this is to evaluate, to conclude, to compare, or to judge. So same lang siya sa evaluation, which is the state of which the teacher must assess on the students of what should the students must learn or must achieve in that specific teaching process. And the last is the creating. So rating na, ito na yung the last part which is Bloom's Taxonomy, di ba doon is to evaluate. But here is create na siya. May ano na siya, may new knowledge na siya which is nakuha niya from those learnings na ginamit niya, learning skills na ginamit niya. So, putting parts into something new. One of the best example of this is yung pinapagawa tayo ng improvised device. Diba? We're using our existing skills and ideas or information to form a new ideas. So, sample verbs including this is generate, produce, formulate, or construct. So, tapos na tayo sa cognitive domain. Cognitive domain includes mostly in the mental abilities and capabilities of mind. And now, let us proceed to the affective domain. By the way, the revised Bloom's Taxonomy is focused lang siya dun sa cognitive. Kaya dito sa affective and the psychomotor, wala na siyang revised. Just the Bloom's Taxonomy lang. Okay, so affective domain. Can you please read everyone?
Learning objectives that emphasize a feeling, tone, and emotion, or a degree of acceptance or rejection.
Includes objectives pertaining to attitudes, appreciation, values, and emotions. Gradwell's affective domain is perhaps the best known of any of the affective domain.
Okay, so affective domain is the learning domain of the student which talk about the emotional and the social-emotional states. And this learning domain is also important for the student, for him or her to evaluate its learning and its ideas about what the students realize in the end of the discussion with the teacher. So let's proceed the classification of the affective domain. So first is receiving. The learners are willing to listen. Sample verbs including this is describe, follow, select, or locate. So you must consider the attention of the students. Kasi nga, once ang estudyante is nabuboard siya sa klase nyo, you will not also concentrate, di ba? Hindi ka rin makakakonsentrate sa teaching process mo because yung mga estudyante mo is hindi sila ganado na makinig sa iyo. So, you must think about what should I do? Ano yung dapat kong gawin para ang mga estudyante ko is magkaroon sila ng willingness to listen about your discussion. So, mostly, yung ginagamit ng mga teacher dito is mga engaging activities. Sample verbs is describe, follow, select, or locate. And next is responding. The learners are willing to participate. And now, since the learners is willing to listen, nakikinig na sila, they will now ready or they will now willing to participate. Pag nakikita natin yung mga estudyante na nagaganahan na sila sa tinuturo mo, now they can now high willingness to participate in your discussion. Sample verbs including this is complies, reads, present, and recites. Yung pinapabasa yung mga estudyante sa front, yung may pinapabasa sa teacher, it is one of the example of responding, which is the teacher and the learners both cooperates to each other. Next is valuing. The learners are willing to involve. Sample verbs including this is demonstrate, differentiate, and explain. Mostly ang ginagamit nito is activities, which is since ang mga learners mo is participating na, nagpa-participate na sila sa mga activities na ginagawa mo, the learners now are involving in that specific discussion. So they can now demonstrate, differentiate, and explain those topics. And next is organize. Organize, it is the learners willing to be an advocate. Sample verbs including this is to arrange, combine, compare, and complete. So mostly rin ito ginagamit rin ito siya sa mga collaborative activities which the teachers allow for its students para mas ganado yung mga students na mag-participate sa class. Next, characterization by value or value set. The learners are willing to change one's behavior or lifestyle. Sample verbs is displays, influence, modifies, and revises. Now, since the learners now is may enough learning na siya about what you have taught about the topic, so he can now have those values and behaviors that na-change yung lifestyle niya. One of the best example of this is like yung estudyante mo is tinuturuan mo siya ng mga good values na kung noon ay hindi siya marunong ng mga respect about elders. So since may mga learnings na siya about that values, and that will change the behavior of the students. So naintindihan yung sa affective. So sa affective is more on the emotional aspects siya sa students. So the last learning domains is the psychomotor domain. So can you please read, everyone?
This domain is characterized by the progressive
Levels of behaviors from observation to mastery of physical skills. Includes physical movement, coordination, and the use of motor skill areas. Development of these skills requires practice and is measured in terms of speed, precision, distance, procedures, or techniques.
So, since tapos na tayo sa cognitive, which is talk about mental abilities, and the affective, which is emotional abilities, now the psychomotor is talks about more on the physical abilities of the learners, which must be also applied because psychomotor is commonly used in applying the learners learnings in real life situation or in a situational scenario. So, classification of psychomotor domain. First is the perception. It is the use of the senses to guide motor activities. Sample verbs described in this list. Sample verbs include this list: describe, differentiate, and identifies. So, perception is how the students must attain on your activities and discussion through the senses. For example, your eyes, kung nakatingin ba yung mga estudyante mo, hindi pa sila mukhang, di ba sila kang murag natulugon, o yung mga estudyante ba nimo is engaging values there kanang mga ilahang mga body ba, nga ma-engage sila. Next is the set. Set includes mental, physical, and emotional abilities. So, sample verbs include in this is displays, explain, show, and states. So, set is the kanang murag i-combine ito itong tulo, which is siya mental, physical, and emotional nga part sa estudyante. Then, the guided response, which is the learning skills that includes imitation, trial, and errors. Sample verbs is traces, follow, react, and reproduce. Guided response is kanang murag imuhang gisundog nimo ang unsay gibuhat sa teacher. It is kanang like imitation bitaw, like unsay gibuhat ni teacher is imong gina-follow, or unsay gitudlo ni teacher is imong gina-apply. So, sample verb in this is kanang just like follow, react, reproduce. Sila. Ina-apply na sila sa imuhang activities, especially when you are evaluating the learning of the students. Next is mechanism. Mechanism is learned response have become more habitual. Ginagawa na siyang habit ng estudyante, which is ina-apply na siya more. So, sample verbs include in this is assembles, construct, or manipulates. Next is the complex overt response, which is the skillful performance of motor skills. Sample verbs is operates, builds, construct, and measures. By the way, ito pala mga sample verbs nila, yan yung mga mostly ginagamit sa mga activities ng mga teacher. Kaya nga itong mga taxonomies na to, tinatawag silang tool or tinatawag silang guide ng mga teacher, kasi itong mga sample verbs na to with the corresponding classification of their learning domains, sila yung ginagamit ng mga teacher, especially in making lesson plans. Sila yung ginagamit sa paggawa ng mga activities, ng mga assessment, or mga assignments. Next is adaptation skills. Adaptation skills are skills that are well developed. Sample verbs include in this is to adapt, alters, change, and rearrange. And the last is the origination, which creating new movements, pattern to a situation. Sample verbs construct, creates, makes, or combine. So, like the affective in this cognitive domain, which is ang kanila is evaluation or evaluating. So, sa psychomotor is the origination. It will also, the best example also of this is yung pinapagawa kayo ng teacher nyo ng mga project, which is yung bago. Just like for example, construct, improvised device na bago sa yung gamit sa inyong school. So, this is also one of the example of creating new ideas through your existing knowledge and informations. So, naintindihan yung psychomotor. So, the three learning domain, which is the cognitive, talks about the mental abilities and capabilities. The affective talks about the emotional state of the student, and the psychomotor, which is the skills or the physical skills of the students or the learners. And now, there are other two popular psychomotor domain taxonomy that are identified in that are some of the teachers ginagamit nila. So, there are two other popular versions of psychomotor domain aside from Simpson in 1972. So, the other version are from Dave 1975 and Harrow 1972. Although hindi sila masyadong ginagamit, but karaniwan yung iba sa mga teacher is ginagamit ito as their guide. So, Dave 1975. So, first is imitation. Patterning behavior after someone else. Yung ginagaya nila yung behavior ng kanilang chosen person. Just like for example, pag may nakita silang teacher na ganyan siya magturo, ganito yung pagtuturo niya. So, yung students din is naisip niya, pag laki ko, gusto ko maging kagaya din ni teacher na yan. So, that is an example of imitation. Sample verbs including this is copy, follow, mimic, or repeat. Next is manipulation. Manipulation are able to perform a certain action or to manipulate. Sample verbs including this is to act, to build, to execute, or to perform. So, some of these sample verbs is ginagamit sila ng mga teachers or K-12 teachers or college instructors in evaluating the teaching the knowledge of their students, especially in the assessment activities. Next is precision, or perform a skill within a high precision. Yung pag-perform ng mga students which is yung mga skills or mga higher skills, abilities nila is nagagamit nila. Sample verbs is calibrate, demonstrate, and master. Next is articulation, or coordinating a series of action. Sample verbs including this is adapt, construct, combine, and create. And the last is neutralization, which is mastering a high level of performance, or sample verbs include this is create, design, develop, and build. So, the Dave psychomotor taxonomy is hindi talaga siya famous na ginagamit, but in the present day now, which is yung mga pagtuturo na, yung educational teaching process na, which is more focused on the students, kaya nga sinasabi na yung pagtuturo sa past years, which is teacher-centered pa. Unlike now, which is more constructivist na ang pagtuturo ng mga estudyante. Kaya some of the teacher use this. And the last is the Harrow psychomotor domain in 1972. Reflects movements which reactions that are not learned. Sample verbs is react or respond. Fundamental movements or the basic movements. Sample verbs throw a ball or walk. Mostly ginagamit ito siya sa mga outdoor activities ng mga students. Perceptual activities or response to stimuli. Sample verbs is catch a ball, draw, or write. Then physical abilities or stamina that must be developed. Sample verbs is agility, endurance, strength. Skill movement, advanced learned movements. Or sample verbs adapt, construct, or create. And non-discursive communication, use effective body language. Sample verbs arrange, compose, and interpretation. So, this sabotable naman siya, which is more on physical skills siya sa mga students, more on body skills about activities which is engaging, and more on outdoor activities siya. Mostly siya ginagamit siya sa mga activities na panggawas. So, that is my actually, kaasay ko siya. Wala pa kaya ito na, samaris ko ito na kung maayo kayo. Butang ko na kung tanan, digit na siya kung man kayo. Abot ko daw mong slides of video. Tapos ako na siyang divide but especially, I want you to kuha niya, ang mostly important ato dyan sa iya is ang blocks of the revised view. Mato siya ang pinaka-important dyan katong duha, especially sa katong model, which is ang na-change. Ang nyo lang i-remember is, from now, na-change siya ito ba ang noun is more on name na siya? Kaya nga tinawag siyang static knowledge. But in the revised, naging verb na siya, which is more on engaging na siya or action. Are you ready for the quiz? Dali na. Okay, let's have a quiz. Number 1.
May 1.4, sir?
Leonardo, balik. 1 to 5, multiple choice of 1 to 6 to 7, 6 to 10 identification. So, sige na, I know, napayaran. Number 1. So, test 1 multiple choice direction. Read the question clearly and choose the letter of the correct answer. Number 1. The following are best describes the definition of Bloom's taxonomy except A. An educational framework for categorizing educational goals. B. A set of 2 hierarchical models of educational learning process. C. Helps teachers teach and students learn. D. A powerful educational tool that explains the process of teaching. What's that? It's very easy. Number 2. Bloom's taxonomy was pioneered by A. Benjamin Bloom, B. Stephen Bloom, C. Anderson 1956, D. Krathwohl 2001. Manan? Next. Who revised the Bloom's taxonomy in 1956? A. Anderson and Bloom 1996, B. Benjamin Bloom 1956, C. Krathwohl 2001, or D. Anderson and Krathwohl 2001. Number 4.
What's up?
The following are some of the classification of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Revised, revised. Now, A, remembering. Except. The following are the classification of the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Exempt. So, may isa na hindi kasali. A, remembering. B, manipulation. C, applying. D, understanding. Ano yung hindi kasali dyan? A learning domain of education that deals the progressive levels of behavior from observation to mastery of physical skills and abilities. A. Affective domain. B. Psychomotor domain. C. A and B. D. Cognitive domains. Test 2. Identification. 6 to 7, what are the other 2 popular versions of psychomotor domain? And 8 to 9, give at least 3 classification of Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's hat, yung original. In cognitive domain of learning.
Katulog ang mga parts niya.
Original. Pwede rin siya magkabalik-balik.
Katulog ito ang mga parts niya. Ma'am? Ito mo na ko order.
Ito din nila. Sorry na ko. Ito din eh.
Ito may pasok.
Ito din natin.
Day 19.
Ito din ang doc. After you're done, exchange your paper with your sibling.
Resolution?
Tapos na. Let's check. Exchange your paper with your sibling.
Perfect kita yun eh. Ang ingani.
Tapos na, exchange na. Okay, so number 1, the answer is B. B naman.
Tama, B.
Number 2, A.
B.
Number 2, A. Number 3, B.
Ay, sabi.
Number 4, B. Number 5, B. 6 and 7 si Dave. Tapos sa 8 to 10, knowledge, comprehension, communication, okay, so pass 10. Nine. 7.
8 na guys.
8.